Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're diving into Bitcoin. Specifically, we're looking at the technicals, the sentiment, for June and July 2025.
Yep.
You shared a whole bunch of sources, market reports, price predictions, all that good stuff. And our goal here is basically to pull out the key takeaways, the important bits, to help you get up to speed fast on what's going on and maybe what's coming next.
Exactly. Trying to cut through the noise a bit.
So right now, Bitcoin's trading, between, say, $102,000 and $106,000, somewhere in that range.
That's right. Sort of hovering there.
And the general feeling, the sentiment, it's kind of cautiously bullish, wouldn't you say? But the momentum, it's been a little choppy.
Yeah, choppy is a good word for it. Not a straight line up for sure.
So the big question for June seems to be, is this consolidation? Is it building a base for something bigger in July? Or are there risks we need to watch out for? Let's break down June first.
Okay, June. What's really interesting, I think, is how clear the key levels are in the sources. We've got this major support zone, basically $99,000 to $100,000.
Okay, the $100K psychological level too?
Right. And it's acted as a floor, critical demand area. We've seen bounces from there recently.
Yeah.
Then on the flip side, you've got major resistance that's sitting higher between roughly $109,500 and say $112,000.
And that lines up with?
It lines up with past cycle peaks, those previous big highs, and also historical macro tops. It's proving to be a pretty solid ceiling, difficult to break through.
A real battleground then.
Definitely.
So if someone's looking at this, thinking about buying or selling in June, what do the sources point to?
Well, for buying, the zone getting highlighted is right around that $100,000 to $102,000 mark. Seems to be proven demand there. Lots of volume.
Makes sense. Near that support.
Exactly. And there's also mention of a sort of strategic accumulation zone. Maybe if things dip lower, like down to the mid-90s, $94,000 to $96,500 perhaps.
Okay, a deeper potential entry. And for selling?
For taking profits, maybe look around $106,000 to $108,000. And of course, that big resistance area we mentioned, $109,500 to $112,000. That's where you'd expect, heavier selling pressure if we get up there.
Got it. So what's the most likely scenario for June then? The expected targets?
The base case really seems to be range bound, just bouncing between those levels. So likely between $102,000 and $108,000. Not a huge breakout either way.
Just kind of stuck in that channel.
Pretty much. But if the bulls can keep the pressure on, maybe a push towards the top of that range, $110,000, maybe $112,000.
And the downside?
If that 99K support doesn't hold, then we could test lower, down towards $96,500, maybe even that 94K level mentioned earlier.
Okay, so June looks like, careful treading within a known range.
That seems to be the consensus.
And July, you mentioned July looks quite different. What are the sources saying that makes the outlook so much more bullish?
Yeah, July is where things get potentially more exciting based on these analyses. If you zoom out, the outlook is significantly more positive. Average price forecasts are talking like $116,000 up to $126,000.
Wow, okay.
And some models are pushing even higher, $135,000, maybe even touching $137,000 in some high-range scenarios.
That's a serious jump from the June picture. What's driving that optimism? What are the catalysts?
Several things mentioned. Potential macro factors like maybe weak U.S. jobs data. That could hint at Fed rate cuts eventually.
Right, which often boosts risk assets like Bitcoin.
Exactly, more liquidity. Plus, the institutional interest, the ETF demand, that's expected to stay strong, providing a steady bid.
Okay.
And there's this interesting historical bit too. June, apparently, is often seen as a bit of a danger zone for Bitcoin historically.
Like a summer slump.
Sort of. Maybe consolidation, pullbacks. But July often sees things pick up again if the macro picture stays stable or improves, like institutions repositioning after Q2. It's a pattern some sources highlighted.
Interesting. So putting it all together then, June versus July, what's the main takeaway for you listening to this?
I think the headline is, June looks largely range-bound, maybe testing resistance, but probably not breaking decisively through. July, however, has a much more bullish flavor according to these sources.
Yeah.
Real potential for new all-time highs being discussed, targeting that, say, $120,000 to $135,000 area, all while hopefully holding support back around that 110K zone. It's a noticeable shift in expected momentum.
Yeah, it really paints a picture of potential patience in June, leading to maybe fireworks in July. It's fascinating how the technicals and the broader market forces seem to weave together in these forecasts. It's not just numbers, is it? It's the story behind them.
Absolutely. Understanding that context is vital. And that brings us to a crucial point that almost all the sources stressed. Risk management is absolutely key.
Yeah.
Because even with these bullish July forecasts, there's still volatility. Things can reverse sharply.
Always a possibility in crypto.
Always. So the final thought really for you listening is knowing that volatility persists, knowing that even the best analysis comes with caveats in such a dynamic market. How does that shape the way you think about and use this kind of information? Something to consider.